Hey guys, it's Coach KJ here, and I'm here with Dr. Felecia, and we are addressing September, which is Suicide Awareness Month. I've seen a lot of different things from physician suicide on September 17th to athletes having a group prayer, um, just really honing in on the message of suicide awareness. Sometimes we see things on the outside and we really don't understand what's going on the inside. And the thing that sparked this video today is the fact that one, suicides after COVID started to go down. In 2022, we're almost at 45,000 suicides from last year, and the number is steadily increasing. The comment that I'm talking about, or the video that I saw that I was discussing with Dr. Felecia, is Deion Sanders, a man who we think has everything. You know, he's Mr. Baseball, Mr. Football, and all this other kind of stuff, actually had a suicide attempt. You're the what, Dr. Felecia? I know you saw the article.
Yeah, so it's interesting with all the current highlights and publicity and just how much people are so intrigued with what's going on with Deion Sanders at Colorado. If people dig a little bit more, they probably can understand a little bit more in terms of his persona, the way he carries himself. If we look at kind of his history, he grew up in a single parent household, and sports was really his outlet to creative expression. And so I remember in one of the first vignettes that they had where they were talking about, his family history and his mom, and he was saying that he didn't have, the type of family support, of course, that he gives his children and his athletes. And he was saying his mom was so busy trying to help them survive, she didn't really have a lot of time to spend to go to football games, to go to baseball games. I think he said he ran track too. So he spent a lot of time self-congratulating himself, is the way he said it, congratulating himself, because there was nobody in the stands. His father was not in his life. And so he had these goals in mind that he would use athletics to kind of get him where he wanted to go. His first kind of success that I think he spent some time on was baseball. And he got an initial contract out of high school to play baseball, but then decided he wanted to go the collegiate route and decided to go to University of Florida to play there, where he was very successful. And he was recounting experience once they won a national championship. He thought he would feel different, and he said he didn't really feel different. He didn't feel happy with achieving that goal as he thought he would. And he recalls the second time that happened was when he won a Super Bowl at San Francisco. And again, he thought he would have a particular type of feeling around it, and he didn't. And then the third time, I believe, was when he was at no, it would have been Atlanta, and then San Francisco when he won the Super Bowl. And that's when he had the attempt. He tried to kill himself. And he said initially he was driving, I'm not sure which highway it was, on the coastal part of LA. But he said that at first he was driving along, and then, he said, you know what, we're just going to do this, and goes down an embankment and ends up in the bottom of the embankment and realizes he's still alive, and that, maybe God has something else for him to do, despite, all the adulation and by this time, interactions with women and, all kinds of things. So as we think about suicide, one of the things I think sometimes people on the outside might not realize is we see people in these spaces of success, but they may not be feeling successful and mentally whole, and use that then as a red flag to say, wait, this something's not right, and I need to get some help. For Deion, it was not only getting help but accepting God into his life, and that has really carried him pretty far.
So we both work with students and adults, and one of the things that I hear too, not as a prelude to suicidal ideation, but just as a prelude to a betterment, to life, more fulfilling life, is, you know what? There's no depth. I'm doing this for this person, I'm doing this for that person, but there's no depth. Like, what do I want? What do I need? What makes me happy? And I think sometimes we get so busy in trying to fulfill a gap or try to impress this person or whatever it may be that's external until we forget about what's internal. We don't take that introspective look. Recently, and we were talking beforehand about the increase in suicides. It's right now, there's a 60% higher rate of suicidal ideation for individuals, for African American males between the ages of 10 to 19. That 1 in 3 young girls have suicidal ideations or thoughts. And this is not, there's a difference between passive suicide and active suicide. So passive suicide is like, I just don't want to be here anymore. I'm depressed, I'm tired, etc. So passive suicide can move forward. A lot of times with active suicide, it's something where somebody's actually planning it. It's not just a one-time thing, or not just a casual thing like life is hard and I'm exaggerating, or that kind of thing. It's like, okay, you know what, life is hard and I'm going to use this method to kill myself. I'm going to do it at this time, at this place. So you've answered all the who, what, when, where, why, and how. In order to get to that process, and I can give you the stats, there's hospital visits, there's doctor's visits. A lot of the times the suicides are committed 1 to 2 months after a doctor's visit. So it's not like people aren't reaching out for help. It's just that, once again, they're still feeling empty and still feeling that void. So when you think of that void, I mean, are you hearing that from people too? I mean, in casual conversation, voids, I mean, does that send out a red light to you?
Well, one of the things that I think was instrumental in even putting a higher signal, I guess, red light in my mind, was when the Miss America, Chelsea, because she's from the Charlotte area. And
Oh,
I remember when, and my husband might have been the one that saw the news first, he was saying something happened to Miss America. And I'm in my head thinking, Miss America, you mean Chelsea? Um, and I'm gonna forget her last name, but
just,
Chelsea. I hope I'm pronouncing. Huh?
I think it's just or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
And anyway, and so in my mind, I'm thinking, you know, where was the gap? It wasn't until I think her mom and her stepdad did a interview on the Red Table Talk with Jada Pinkett Smith, and the mom was saying that she had, as you mentioned, she'd had some medical support for depression, but she was the words her mom used were she was a highly functioning depressed person. So whatever that gap was in terms of, internal fortitude, that was still missing. We're talking about someone who, as many people might say on paper, very accomplished student. She was a student athlete at South Carolina. She finished school, and then went on to become Miss America, a very popular social media. But we also know what emerged was some other internal things that she was dealing with, that was kind of beyond the medical support that she was already given. So I think you almost have a bit of a dichotomy or paradox, because on the one hand, people may see what they think is, or if they're, personally with someone, they may see things that they think the person's okay, but they may be dealing with a depth of emotions that on their own they cannot, manage. And that may be the out in their mind, that the pain of it can be gone away. The same thing might have been for, who was the other person that my mind
Twitch.
was?
So
Twitch.
I read two things. So I read the one on with Crystal Gist, which was like more or less, I hope you're happy now. That was like in her suicide note. That was in the original one.
Yeah.
The one with
Yes.
Twitch, he read, he gave a video. And in his video, he said, and I hope you're happy now. And I work with Donna Rogers. She works with Morgan's Message. Her daughter committed suicide. And what she said is, for the students that she works with that attempted suicide or have thought about, had suicidal ideations, one of the things that they say afterwards is they never realized how much people loved them and how much they were of value. So if we're looking at the fact that people who have attempted and survived said, hey, look, you know what? I never knew how much people loved me, and I never knew that I was of value. And we're looking at the people who committed, and we're looking at their suicidal note saying, look, I hope you're happy now. Once again, those are all external. Like you're looking for approval, you're seeking approval, you're trying to get it from other people.
Yes.
And realistically, in this life, we need to be introspective, because as long as we are comparing ourselves to others, we will never match up. We're never going to be thin enough. We're never going to be, dark enough, light enough, pretty enough, whatever. We're never ever going to be enough as long as we compare ourselves to other people, because when you think about it, it's a world of other people. You're not comparing yourself to one other person, because if you compare yourself to one other person, then once you meet that bill, you're going to compare yourself to the next person, next person, next person, next person. You have to look inward to find the beauty, the amazing, the awesomeness. That's why I tell people all the time, I say, you are awesome. And if you don't see it, if you don't know it, look in. And once you look in, you're going to see what other people see and why other people say you're so great. So I think that that's kind of like a part of what I consistently hear, is that people are looking externally. There's only one person that you can look to externally and get, clear direction as where to go. And of course, that's God. And maybe Deion just felt fatigued trying to please this one, the wife, the mom, the kids, this, and just found solace in looking to one person. I remember one interview I heard with Deion, and he said he was doing something. I can't remember. He was getting ready to do something big, and whatever it was, he said, if you don't want something, if you don't want people to know something, you want to keep a secret, do not tell my mother. He said, anytime I tell my mother, he said, you know that I want everybody to know. So it could have been also the fact that certain things his mother was able to communicate with a lot of people before he was ready for them to be shared. So with that being said, you have to look at, was Deion at that particular time looking for external affirmation instead of internal affirmation? Our young adults today, with the suicide challenges, the National Suicide Awareness Month, are individuals looking outward. Doctors are looking for approval. Right now, female physicians have a 140% higher rate of suicide. And male physicians have a 40% higher rate of suicide. This is not suicidal ideations. But guess what? They have to, in some way, look externally for validation, right? If I keep losing patients, or I keep making medical errors, there's tangible proof that I'm missing the mark. So that's, that might be why there's such a high rate of suicide. Policemen, you make a mistake, you do something, there's a very high rate of suicide with law enforcement.
Right. And the other group that I saw some research, or maybe we were talking about it in one of my Christian education classes at my home church, and the pastor was talking about developing this base of resources, whether it's additional people in the church, colleagues or peers, because you look at pastors, they're in that highly depressed group as well, seeking Yeah, well, and it again, it's a bit of a paradox because on the one hand, you just said, you should be seeking, of course, validation through experiences through God. But if the persons who are there to deliver that message also are seeking, that support, and if they're not getting it, they again become highly depressed and may, fall into some of those other categories as well. I found that just quite fascinating to me, that he was saying that he said he had to really make a concerted effort to have those resources so he didn't get, caught up in, so to speak, the trenches of 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 pastoring a church. So you have people having whatever they have going on in the midst of what you're going on in your personal life as well.
So think about it. You got one pastor, right? One pastor.
Right.
And you got a whole congregation, 500, 2,000, whatever it is. If you do one thing wrong, you've now got 2,000 people to talk about your business. And then on top of those 2,000 people, depending on who you have in the church, they're talking to additional friends, additional friends, additional friends. So there's such a high pressure. Athletes, you make a mistake in a game, there's such a high pressure put on them to be perfect. And when you have all those external forces telling you what you should or should not be, and you don't have that that strong internal self-awareness, that can be a challenge. And internal self-awareness does not necessarily mean cockiness and all the other stuff. You need to know, what is your communication style? What is your love language? What are your character strengths? What is your best suited environment? As you learn all those things, all the pieces to the puzzle, you're then better able to, I would say self-advocate, but also like distance yourself. You know what I mean? You can't have the depth that you need to survive if you're always looking externally for affirmation, and it's sad that one of the sad things is, like, when you think about it, when you're looking externally for affirmation, sometimes people may attribute certain gifts to you that are not your gift. Do you know what I mean? So let me give you an example. So someone may be like Oprah. Oprah gave this scenario, this perfect one. Oprah is an introvert. Oprah's an introvert, but she's on TV. She's always with celebrities. She's always going to these events and stuff like that. So if she's an introvert, how is she feeling when she goes to these environments where she's constantly pressured to socialize? If she doesn't want to socialize, do you know what I mean? What if there's a time frame where Oprah can do what needs to be done, but after that, she's got to go. I'm out. But if Oprah can't express,
she's what they would call an introvert extrovert. And I think a lot of us, and I'll put myself in that category, because I was telling somebody, I am really a introvert, but extrovert because I speak for a living.
Are you?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. I am. Yeah, I am. So if I'm in a big group of people, normally you will find me pretty much one-on-one, whereas my husband, straight extrovert. He'll tell you everybody in the room. He doesn't meet any strangers. We are really kind of total opposite. So yeah, I had heard that about Oprah, that she was an introvert, but she appears to be extrovert. And I said, oh, I understand how that is. So I could be in a room, with doesn't matter how many people, I'm usually one or two, pretty much the whole evening. So yeah, but learning what that is can also help.
But Oprah's had all these therapists to help her vocalize that. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Had all this
yes, she has. She has.
I don't know if you know this, but Serena Williams goes to a life coach. Who was it? Will Smith, when that incident happened with the slapping, he went to a life coach. People are going to life coaches and therapists, and Oprah has several life coaches, etc. Because once again, if you don't know that you're an introvert, extroverts and introverts, their brains are actually wired differently. So if you don't know how to
They
communicate
are.
that, imagine what kind of pressure you get when you're in school and the teacher's like, speak up, speak up, speak up. Well, for
Right.
10% of the time you can speak up, but for the other 80%, you are burnt out. You don't want to deal with it, but you don't know how to verbalize that. And I wonder if sometimes too, and I don't know, I know Deion gives the image on TV and he stands up for a lot of people and he's very vocal and he's, this. But I wonder sometimes if he just gets tired. Do you know what I mean? If
Yeah.
there comes a point in time where,
Yeah.
yes, you have that front, but you just get tired.
Yeah. I think one of the things that it seems like he's doing more of, we live in this society, of course, of social media 24/7. And so I think one way that it appears he may be, mediating that constant pressure is his one of the sons I know does the social media. So you get snapshots, almost what I would call controlled snapshots of various parts. It might be something funny that happened that day, or he recounts something that happened on the field, but it's more controlled versus, 24/7. And you got cameras following you all the time, every minute of the day, for some document. I think the son said they're doing a documentary, but still it's more controlled versus, a Kardashian where you got the cameras going 24/7, which is a lot of exposure.
Right.
So
He gets to pick
yes,
and choose. He gets to pick and choose, and that's a great opportunity to release. But so you're getting a glimpse of depth, but you're not getting the depth. So he's able to retain, his peace and have some time at home
yes,
and really once
yes,
again, be introspective. If you're in front of the camera all the time, it's like, oh God, what did I say the last time? What did I do this time? And da, 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 da. Because everything,
right,
social media, it's like this, everything stacks up. And then it comes
right.
into
It does.
10 minutes left. And then it comes into, once again, making sure that you're taking care of yourself and that you're able to build that depth. Because once you understand, who you are and what you want to do, there's still going to be things out there that are going to contradict what you believe in. And if you're not strong enough in your convictions, you'll succumb to what other people want you to do. Do you know what I mean? Not happily per se, but just to keep the peace. Just to keep the peace. And
Right.
so
I know, and I'll speak again for myself as a introvert, extrovert. In meetings, particularly big meetings, I've learned how to, um, if I don't have to immediately express something, I usually give myself some lag time, because you'll have some people in meetings, they'll hear it and they have, responses instantaneous. And I have to process information, and I just don't speak just to be talking. And the people who are around me now know that. They know, I'm going to take the information. If you don't need an immediate response or immediate communication, then I'm going to take some time and then I'll, get back to whomever the issue is. Sometimes we don't always have time to do that though, because you are going to have some, in the moment. But I would add to you with the rise in some of the suicide, I know a lot of it with the population that I work with on campus, it's because of the 24/7, exposure, access to social media. Online bullying is almost like you almost have to turn your phone off, because if you're in that space, people sometimes will use their phones as a weapon. I don't know
and
another way
here's the
to.
thing, but listen to this. Listen to this. I gotta
Yeah,
tell you this. Just did a
yeah.
presentation with a police captain, and if somebody records something,
Mm-hmm.
anything, it goes back to that phone number. If it gets social media, wherever, whatever, they can track it back to who recorded it. They can track it back to that phone. So that's how people have
Wow.
like a major defense. Yes, yes, yes. So if something's on social media, if somebody puts some pictures out there that you don't want, you can always track it back. You can always go to the police. You can always have a response. So yeah, so I mean, not everybody knows that, but they
Right.
need to know that they do have that defense. out there.
No, everybody doesn't. Everybody does not know that. And like I said, with the cyberbullying, some people, again, you just told me that. So I can communicate that and say, look, you have something, you don't know where it's from, you can always trace it back and then, take it to the authorities, whether it's on campus, or beyond. But wow.
Yeah. And with that being said, once again, if you're talking about the cyberbullying and all that other kind of stuff, once again, that doesn't give a person the opportunity to go in to do that introspective look,
No,
because you're always worried about what's going
it
on
does not.
around you and how to please other people and how to maintain your image and how to do and how to. So this was a
Right.
phenomenal conversation, I guess because we're phenomenal people. Keeping it real. Um, but I wanted to say thank you so much for talking about that. Once again, this is September, it's Suicide Awareness Month. I think no, I know we need to pay more attention to the signs.
Yes.
I know we need to ask more questions. Even when people seem like they're happy, etc., you just want to make sure that we're going deeper and make sure they're going deeper, make sure that they have a greater self-awareness of their awesomeness and all the things that they do, and also that they're valued. Because once again, that was the wrong one response is, you do make a difference, you do matter. So, and what are your closing thoughts? Because I think we might have
Right.
like 5 minutes left.
Yeah, I just, with the rise in those numbers, I would concur with you really to take time. I know the other day I talked to a colleague, we were talking about my children, but I could see on her face, you know, her thinking about it. There was some consternation around it. And she briefly was sharing that, she had 3 sons and that she had spent, a good portion of her time around their activities, their life. And she had at one time been in another position, but because of having to be stretched in these places, and she was depressed for it. She said she was depressed for a long time, but being able to talk about it and listen, if you have an opportunity to listen, because that's all I did that day was just stand and listen and not respond,
Because you
to what she
matter.
was saying. So
By listening,
yeah,
you're
yes,
showing somebody that you matter and somebody cares. We need you here.
right,
I'm listening to you. You matter, you know,
right,
and that's what I think, from hearing what Donna was saying, with Donna's message is that people feel like there's no one who cares. If I leave here today, nobody cares.
right,
I don't have a
right.
purpose. And helping people to find by finding your inner strengths, you can also find your purpose. So if people feel like they don't have a purpose, I don't have a value, I don't have a purpose, I'm not moving towards a goal, or the goal that I'm moving towards is their goal, not my goal. Change the
Yeah,
narrative. Change the
yes.
narrative.
Great
Help
discussion.
look inward. And I believe that, like I said, Deion Sanders' video opened some eyes. I believe that Twitch opened some eyes. I believe that Regina King's son,
Yes,
this kid has a whole lot of money. How to
yes.
commit suicide? Regina King's son, um, Kate Spade.
Oh my goodness.
Yes,
I
yes.
didn't I didn't believe that one, and my daughter pulled up the information for me, and just just
The,
feel
one of the
I feel
skills.
bad that she suffered, apparently, like you said, going inward in silence, even though she was this public person.
And she said her final note was to tell her daughter that it wasn't her daughter's fault. So that means like she was
Mm,
thinking through the process to take out time to write something to your daughter and tell your daughter it's
yes,
not your daughter's fault. So as I said, people who commit suicide is not like a one-time event. It's or like,
no,
oh my God, I'm gonna commit suicide tonight. It's a process. And people who are seeking psychiatric help or mental health along the way, physicians, etc., those are people that are also susceptible, because who knows if they're being completely transparent with the
right.
psychiatrist.
We don't know if
Sometimes
they're
people
telling the truth or not. Right.
just,
We don't.
I'm just saying something because other people said I need to go to a psychiatrist, so I'm going to make other people happy. Not because I believe I need it, but because
Right.
I believe, because other people are saying this. So one thing really quickly, One of the things that we found is with regards to suicidal ideation, it's for people who have low IgA levels, low dopamine levels, etc. That is a
Mm,
cause of suicidal ideations. I read that vitamin B9 and folic acid helps to
yes.
improve dopamine levels. What else? Send us something,
Yeah.
Dr. Felicia.
Well,
You got something.
I'm the runner here, so if you can exercise, even if it's, as little as five in spurts of 5 minutes, walking outside, walking around your house, biking, if you can hike, any types of exercise is going to help those dopamine levels. I think that's why I like running so much, because those levels stay so high. But yeah, I would say exercise, find something you like to do to move. Even if you're sitting in a chair moving, that will count as exercise. So try to exercise, go out and have some fun.
Communication, vitamin B9. B12 does not have as high of an impact as B9, but B9. Communication, I said communication, exercise, B9. Can you think of anything else?
Other than, like I was mentioning, about my pastor, being intentional, trying to, ensure that you do, access the resources a lot of times that are right in front of you. Chesley's mom said she knew, but she knew she was struggling, but I'm just not sure the next step to that support was, you know access. So if you can access the support that you have, or I think you already mentioned, getting formal care, and really taking it upon yourself, for yourself, to get better and not do it for any other reasons.
And getting the right formal care, because if you have a physician or if you have a practitioner who has a completely different belief system than yours, they could be steering you towards their belief system versus the
Right.
thing that is best for you. So as you get professional help, also